Greetings. Well, as you can see, today we are looking at South America, where there are actually a couple of storm systems off the coast. One down here off Argentina, little subtropical low pressure perhaps. But the one we're interested in more is this one. This is Tropical Storm Iba, and it has been declared a tropical storm today by the Brazilian Meteorological Service. And actually, by just looking at this, it looks like it is getting sheared apart, because if you look very carefully, you'll see the circulation, or a circulation, emanating out from the deep convection. The reason why this is interesting is because the South Atlantic is very rarely gets tropical cyclones. In fact, their list of recorded tropical cyclones is pretty small. This is the whole list. Of course, before satellites, it's quite likely some were missed, but there's actually only been one recorded hurricane, the famous Hurricane Katrina. But even tropical storms are unusual, even on this small list. Most of these are actually just subtropical storms. The ASCAT scatterometer instrument managed to get a pass over the system, and I always struggle with these plots, but I believe that indicates that it is at 0:10 UTC today, so that was 9 AM Japan time. Sorry, I don't know the time in wherever you are, but anyway, it was 30 knots in this region. Technically, in terms of wind, it would have to be over 34 knots to be a tropical storm, so most likely there was somewhere that was over 34 knots. Dare I try to speak some Portuguese, but this is the Instituto Nacional de Meteorologia, and they have issued a document, and I'm going to translate it. So here is the translation, and some bits are a bit funny. I think Google has gone a bit off, but anyway, we have the main point is it was reclassified as a tropical storm Iba at 09, which I guess is their time. They're indicating some strong winds reaching the coastal region, so we're going to have a quick look at the forecast in a moment. But there's also another important bit of information down here, which is that there is a possibility of hangover occurring reaching the coast. So there you go. So let's take a look at the forecast. This is the ECMWF, and this time I'm using windytv.com because they have an excellent viewer. And if we go forward, what we're looking at here is the wind speeds, surface wind speeds in knots, and for it to be a tropical storm, it's got to be in that sort of color, reddish, and so that's tropical storm. But for it to be a hurricane, it would have to get well into the blues, because it needs to get to 64 knots, and that is up at the far end of the scale. And as you'll see in the ECMWF, it does not get to hurricane strength. The GFS is fairly similar, having it close to the coast, and I guess the thing is that it is very, very close to the coast, so there are these coastal impacts possible before it makes its turn away, and there is a brief period there where it's getting closer to probably 50 knots, and then it moves off. Let's return to Tropical Tidbits for a look at the rainfall and sea level pressure, and it is at 1004 at the beginning, and then as you can see, it doesn't really deepen very much. In fact, then it weakens. So just taking a look back at the system, this is looking kind of at an angle. So we're looking at the thunderstorm tops over here, and then peeking out underneath, just notice the circulation. And I think that may be the circulation center of the storm, and that's an indication that it's getting sheared by upper level winds in this direction. And you can kind of tell that by the upper level clouds, because you see all this upper level cirrus moving off this direction, but there isn't that much coming off in this direction. Another cool thing we can do is we can overlay the lightning energy density in the RAMMB slider viewer, and that shows you where lightning is. So there you go, a rare very exciting tropical storm in the southern Atlantic. Fascinating. And there is the Earth. See you next time.